Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about some early European history and starting with talking about Europeans that are making contact with the outside world. Europe in the 1400s experienced enormous cultural, economic, and technological changes. As new ideas swept the continent, some Europeans began to look beyond their shores to satisfy their growing ambitions. They were about to enter an age of discovery and exploration that would change not only Europe but much of the world as well. As trade increased during the Middle Ages, towns located near rivers prospered. Large trade fairs were set up in some cities where the townspeople and merchants bought and sold goods. The earlier years of the Middle Ages, which began with the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, were marked by the absence of an effective central government and a constant threat of famine, disease, and foreign invasion. However, as political stability returned, new institutions and ideas slowly took hold, and a new civilization emerged in Europe. By the 1400s, European sailors were beginning a dramatic new period of exploration fueled by the search for gold, spices, and wealth. Attempts to expand trade networks brought Europeans into contact with other peoples throughout the known world. So, by this time, European sailors are going to start exploring out. They've kind of made all the connections that they can in Europe, but they want more, and you're going to see greed and the search for gold and wealth is going to be driving a lot of this. So they're going to start pushing out and exploring new places and new options. The thing is, there's already people there, and they're not going to take it very well with these new people kind of shoving into their area. Agriculture drives the economy. In the 1400s, the population of Europe was beginning to recover from the drastic effects of bubonic plague, known as the Black Death. During the 1340s, that epidemic had killed about a third of all Europeans. However, as populations recovered, the economic situation improved. Hand tools and draft animals sustained an economy that was overwhelmingly agricultural. The great majority of the people lived in the countryside. Cities, however, were growing, especially in northern Italy and in the Netherlands. In the days before mechanized factories, the small-scale manufacturing of cloth, tools, weapons, and ceramics took place in the urban workshops of artisans. During the Middle Ages, the Church strictly controlled intellectual life. Church leaders sought to ensure that all thought adhered to their understanding of the world. Church leaders felt that everything worth knowing had either been discovered by the Greeks and Romans or recorded in the Bible. Those who pursued scientific discoveries that went against church teachings risked prosecution for heresy by church courts. So, back in this time, there's this thing that's a pretty foreign idea to us today. It was that church and religious leaders were also political leaders, and that's kind of a strange thought to how we know government today. The church controlled intellectual life, they controlled scientists, they controlled governments. It was if the religious authorities kind of ran the world back at this time, and they did not like if people were exploring these new ideas. They saw new ideas as dangerous to their power, to their authority. So if anybody were to be researching, for instance, let's say that you were looking into, maybe you were an astronomer and you're looking at the planets in the sky. If you started to suggest the idea that maybe the Earth isn't the center of the universe, maybe the Earth is rotating around the sun, which it is. Well, scientists that were studying the planets that made this discovery were prosecuted and pursued by the church and punished for their ideas. Huge ornate cathedrals like Burgos Cathedral in Castile, Spain, reflect the historical power and influence of the Catholic Church in Europe. The Crusades lead to increased trade. In the latter half of the Middle Ages, European Christians and Southwest Asian Muslims fought one another in a series of religious wars known as the Crusades. The goal was to capture and hold Jerusalem and all of the Holy Land where Jesus had lived and died. In the end, the Muslims defeated the Christian Crusaders. However, there were other lasting effects of the Crusades that benefited the people of Europe. Europeans became aware of distant lands and different ways of life. Trade was encouraged. Crusaders returned home with goods and raw materials from the East, including silks, gems, and spices. And this is going to increase demand for these products and cause European traders to expand their businesses to Asia. So whenever these soldiers go off to fight in this war, whenever they return home, well, they're going to return home with their foods and their spices and things from the Middle East where they had been fighting. They're going to bring it back and they're going to present it to the king or present it to the wealthy people, and they're going to try this food and they're going to really like it and they're going to say, oh, well, we want more of this, you know, or they're going to see these fancy silks and gems and be like, oh, well, we want more. So that is going to drive the merchants and explorers from Europe to find a way to get to Asia quickly and safely so that they can make money off of this new demand for these products. Muslims controlled the trade routes. The Europeans who were Christian felt hemmed in by the superior wealth, power, and technology of their rivals and neighbors, the Muslims. Muslims followed the religion of Islam. Dominated by the Ottoman Turks, the vast Muslim realm stretched across North Africa and around the southern and eastern Mediterranean Sea to embrace parts of Eastern Europe and Southwest Asia. The Muslim world also spread east through Central and Southeast Asia and continued to expand. The Ottoman Turks even invaded southeastern Europe, capturing the strategic city of Constantinople in 1453. Within this vast Muslim world, long and relatively secure trade routes extended from Morocco to the East Indies and from Mongolia to West Africa. Reluctant to travel through Muslim lands, European traders had to find another way to reach the riches of the East. So they don't want to travel across land because they're enemies. They're rivals. And if they're traveling across their land, they're just going to kill them and take their stuff. Or they're going to try to rob them or charge them like taxes and tolls to pass through. So they're going to try to find a route that isn't across land. And, well, since flight doesn't exist yet, we're going to have to go by sea. There is a map that shows all of the major trade routes in Europe at the time. European expansionists found hope on the Iberian Peninsula of southwestern Europe. There, the kingdoms of Aragon, Castile, and Portugal were waging the Reconquista, or the reconquest, to drive out the Muslim Moors who had ruled Iberia for centuries. In 1469, the marriage of Prince Ferdinand and Queen Isabella united Aragon and Castile to create Spain. In 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella completed the Reconquista by seizing Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in Iberia. Long and violent, the Reconquista inspired a zealous crusading spirit for spreading the Christian faith. Alright, this is Prince Henry the Navigator, and he helped make Portugal a leader in naval technology and exploration. Portuguese technology and navigators. Facing the Atlantic Ocean and close to Africa, Spain and Portugal were well situated to seek new trade routes and to expand European influence. The Portuguese took the early lead in venturing out into the Atlantic. These innovations helped sailors determine their location and direction when beyond sight of land. Shipbuilders were producing sturdier ships capable of sailing hundreds of miles. A ship known as the Caravel had a stern rudder, 3 masts, and a combination of square and triangular lateen sails. Now, this picture on this slide here, this is a Caravel. It is one of these ships that the Portuguese used, and this was cutting-edge technology of the day. The way that the sails worked and the way that the ship was constructed cut down on travel time immensely. So Portuguese were sort of the leaders of the world in technology at this time. Starting in 1419, Prince Henry the Navigator directed Portuguese efforts to sail into the Atlantic, spread Christianity, and reduce Muslim domination of trade. Henry founded a school of navigation and sponsored several expeditions down the coast of West Africa. By sailing southward, the Portuguese hoped to reach the sources of the gold, ivory, and enslaved people that Muslim merchants transported across the Great Sahara. So they're trying to find where these Muslim merchants are getting all of these exotic goods that the rich people in Europe have a demand for. Portuguese dominance at sea. Throughout the 1400s, the Portuguese continued to sail further and further from home. They sought a route around Africa's southern tip into the Indian Ocean. Then their ships could continue east in search of India, the East Indies, and eventually China. In 1487, the Portuguese mariner Bartolomeu Diaz learned how to use the counterclockwise winds of the South Atlantic to get around southern Africa. In 1498, Vasco da Gama exploited that discovery to reach India, opening an immensely profitable trade route. So the Portuguese are going to continue to make these discoveries at sea, which are going to make them even better and better sailors. So the Portuguese really are like the world leaders at this time of exploration, of all this seafaring that they've been doing. Now the ultimate goal is to try to find a route to China. And they think, well, if we can go around the southern tip of Africa, that's going to allow us to get to India and then eventually to China, where they know all of these exotic goods are that they've been searching for. Spanish mariners sail west. In the late 1400s, the Spanish looked westward into the open Atlantic. They took inspiration from the profitable discovery and exploitation earlier in the century of islands in the Atlantic, the Azores, the Madeiras, and Canaries. Perhaps similar islands could be found further to the west. Furthermore, by leaping from one set of islands to another, perhaps mariners could one day reach the coveted coast of China. See, at this time, people knew that the world wasn't flat. You know, the Greeks, the ancient Greeks, had done the math to prove that the world was round. And the reason that they didn't just sail west to try to get to China was they felt that there's no way a ship could stock enough supplies to make it all the way there without running out of food, running out of drinkable water, or the other things that you're going to need at sea. You know, you just couldn't stock enough supplies. Or if you could stock enough supplies, you didn't have enough people. So it wasn't a matter of, well, the world is flat, we can't go that way. It was, we can't take enough stuff on this ship to go. Because nowadays, if we wanted to, we could drive across the entire country here, and as long as you have money, you're not going to run out of food. You know, you can stop anywhere and get some food along the way. Well, whenever you're just headed out across open ocean, you can't just pilot your caravel through the drive-thru at a McDonald's and get a McDouble just because you're hungry. You know, any food that you're going to eat on that whole journey, you have to take with you from the beginning. And they just said that they couldn't stock enough supplies to make it all the way to China. But the Spanish are thinking, well, we've found these other small islands. Maybe we can find more small islands and just sort of hop from one island to another and use those islands to restock our supplies. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. You know all the usual ways that you can do that. And I hope I'll see you all again real soon.